All right, we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Eric Rodriguez, here every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Time, here on the GSMC Sports Network. Talk about the greatest thing in the world, professional wrestling. We talk about all the action inside and outside of the ring. We also talk about, superstar news, maybe inactive statuses, maybe perhaps, injury updates. Maybe perhaps we talk about superstar signings and contract negotiations and new signings. From WWE to AEW to NXT to New Japan Professional Wrestling to Stardom to the GCW. We talk about everything in terms of the world of professional wrestling here on this podcast. So make sure you guys, tune in. All right, just kind of reflect on what we talked about right quick. We had our WWE SmackDown talk, and now we're going to talk about some TNA and also also some Ring of Honor. But first, we have a chat from my man Anthony Mazzano. Hope you had a great Halloween, my friend. Someone just wrote an article on Bleacher Report talking about the pros and cons of the WWE ID program, and they said that people were skeptical that this might end up doing the current independent circuit what Vince did to the territories in the 80s and the 90s. I agree. I do agree. I do feel like, obviously in modern day times, the world of wrestling is completely different under this, digital era. Everybody has their own, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram where they can possibly kind of promote their own word. You don't necessarily have to be like, oh, I'm going to run to the WWE because they get, the most television time, which they, and all in all they do. But now you have shows on YouTube. Now you have, wrestling promotions like the NWA and WWE Speed, having their shows on their Twitter/X account. So, I personally, I do agree with you. I do agree with you that is kind of, that is kind of a little sketchy. That is a little sketchy because, Vince McMahon, he did take a lot of wrestlers. I know, like during the documentary, he was talking about how, the evil billionaire Ted Turner, he was taking my superstars like Lex Luger and Bret McMahon. Like, what I mean? There are some similarities, and to be honest, I do agree with you, and I necessarily don't really like it, but I'm hoping that under the Triple H Paul Levesque era with this collaboration, with NXT and TNA, that maybe, it might open the door and maybe not close the doors to like potentially having like a mesh spot with like AEW be pretty badass. Well, although I feel like that would be like a ultimate, like I don't know, that I feel like that would never really happen, but that'd be so cool. Oh my god. You know, or Ring of Honor or New Japan Professional Wrestling or the CMLL, the the GCW. There's a lot of I more or less feel like they're opening up the territory to be like, hey, if you want to come out and be in WWE, you can possibly be a superstar. But if you not, if you don't, it's cool if you want to take another career path. But it's giving professional wrestlers a chance to ultimately showcase their skills, ultimately find a home, maybe perhaps I although WWE has been overall in the wrestling promotions like kind of been viewed as this like prestigious kind of out kind of the kind of like the major leagues in sort of wrestling, and everywhere else is kind of like minors and stuff like that. So this might be a way for Triple H to like find the next possible superstar, because for the longest time, if you constantly promote older aging superstars, and you might not be able to kind of find a young guy who could be that next person that could promote your generation. And kind of thinking about what's happening on Raw and SmackDown right now, on SmackDown, who are the real main event guys. Dwayne the Rock Johnson has to come back to WWE just to like make the main event picture a little more prestigious. Um, you have Cody Rhodes, you have Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa. No, he's a joke. On SmackDown, that's about it. That's why I feel like re-signing Bobby Lashley would have been a great idea. But on Kevin Owens, he's there, but I ultimately feel like he's like a glorified mid Carter. And obviously, that's my opinion, 1010%. because he, during his reign as a Universal Champion, I feel like he never really got that push that he ultimately deserved. He lost to Goldberg for Christ's sakes. And then, Randy Orton, obviously Randy Orton's always going to be it's going to be an oldie but goodie, but I feel like his tactics, I feel like his storyline of always being the apex predator and, turning his back on people and and RKOing people, I feel like at this point, and then you look at some of the wrestlers from NXT, and now that NXT is kind of its own entity and not really the developmental territory for SmackDown or Raw. So I feel like maybe that's the reason why they could possibly be doing it, because NXT is kind of going to be its own, kind of going to be its own little thing. Anthony Mazzano also said, up and coming guys on the independent circuit, get a bigger platform and get better funding for their training. That's true as well. That's a great point. And they actually clarified this is wrestling school have a contract that sends their students to the training facility in Orlando. See, that's all in all, I feel like that's great. That's great for professional wrestling. I feel like it's at this point where, I don't think Triple H is going out there or WWE for that matter, or TKO is gonna be like, you know what, we're trying to steal superstars. It wasn't like how it was back in the day with Vince. And then even with Vince, he was like, you know what? According to his words, you know what I mean? He was like, I never went out there and I, wanted to steal talent. I simply gave people the opportunity of, wrestling for a big firm, like a promotion like WWE, like, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you're like, all right, well, you never really had the confidence to put on this amazing show that was WrestleMania 1 without knowing that, you were going to lock down these guys. Because why would you want to showcase these guys at a main event like WrestleMania and be like, all right, now you guys can go ahead and run back to your territories. Thank you so much for, tuning into the, WWE. It's like you weren't going to have those guys if you weren't going to eventually, like, sign them up. So, obviously there's some, some stuff behind that, because they just recently revealed some of the schools that are signed up, the Nightmare Factory reality of a wrestling school from Booker T's, professional wrestling promotion academy, the Black and Breed, Seth Rollins, you know, what Booker T's doing with his wrestling promotion. I like it. I know that, Azila Fatu also as well is, he's doing wonders in that promotions. He's winning titles, and he's being trained up to eventually make his way into this bloodline storyline. He might be the last one to ultimately, I feel like I'm waiting for Hikuleo any moment now. I feel like he could, shock the world. Maybe he's going to be at Crown Jewel. I'm not too sure. Maybe you have Sami Zayn come out and, kind of even the odds. And then Hikuleo comes and he's like, oh, he's part of Solo Sikoa. And then at that point, Jimmy and Jay are like, you know what? Sammy is family. Sammy's family. We're gonna need him against, this, tall, over 6 foot guy, that's gonna be representing the young bloodline. So, the Crown Jewel is gonna be great. I can't wait to see what's gonna happen at Crown Jewel. Obviously, in terms of the territories and WWE, the independent wrestling circuit program. I feel like it's just going to be great. It's going to be great for professional wrestlers. I don't want to necessarily, depict it as something, negative. Which like I said, I'm not too sure if that is possible anymore because of wrestling promotions, streaming stuff online. Necessarily they don't need to compete like Ted Turner was going head to head with WWE, with Monday Night Nitro, Monday Night Raw, and you're like, we're fighting for television time. Nowadays people don't even have cable, and it's crazy. It's a crazy world we live in right now. But I definitely think it's pretty cool having it compared to the territories back in the 80s and 90s. I got to be honest, I thought that I saw the moment I saw the press release, I was like, holy crap. I was like, because I recently watched the Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix docuseries, and I was like, oh my God, this seems like, oh my, deja vu, dude. Like, I don't know. It was just, it was interesting, but I don't know. Should be crazy. I'm interested to find out new styles of professional wrestling. I talked about it, about with my NXT review, how Stephanie Vaquer, Julia, and Zarya, ever since they made their way into WWE, inside the ring, their skill set, the way they dictate and like, kind of control the tempo within the squared circle in their matches, it's just different, and it's and It's exciting. It's pretty cool. I definitely love that 1,010%. Got a chat from my man. I think the guy you just said joined Solo Sikoa in his group. I think so too. I feel like that would make the most sense. Yeah, I agree with you. It's extremely hard, specifically in the United States, to do that anymore because of the antitrust laws. I don't think WWE can force independent companies out of business. Yeah, you're right. That's true. And at the end of the day, it's I kind of like that because sometimes you do have wrestlers that you know, and I don't want to seem like I'm like this hard up wrestling fan that's like, oh, that guy's trash or something like that. Sometimes it does take wrestlers to, when they are in the WWE, like look at what happened with Drew McIntyre, look at what happened with Cody Rhodes. They go to the independent wrestling circuit and they're just complete badasses, like Zack Ryder and Matt Cardona. Like they're just complete badasses. They establish themselves. They get their confidence up within the independent wrestling circuits, and the passion that the fans have is amazing. I love that. And they eventually make it to Ring of Honor. They basically make it to the AEW or the WWE. So I don't know. I feel like that's super awesome. I would love to see some independent wrestling wrestlers kind of come out of their shell a little bit. Absolutely on fire. Absolutely with confidence in themselves. And obviously when it's all good. You're great on any wrestling promotion you land on, even if it's not WWE. For Stephanie, do you think it's going to be harder for her to cross over to non Spanish speaking fans for WWE because she doesn't really speak good English? Santos was the exception. He grew up in Texas. I read a report that that's the reason why Shawn Michaels, the CEO of NXT, is kind of taking his time with Julia and Stephanie. And yeah, it is. It's tough. It's tough. Me myself, I know a little bit of Spanish, but then sometimes, once when I'm in this predicament where I'm like, we're nowadays in the world of wrestling and just in the world, just in the United States, it's crazy. Um, this world is becoming more diverse, and I feel ultimately that's what's going to ultimately make it better. You kind of have to establish kind of an understanding. That you kind of have to have this competence or competence to ambiguity, and you're like, you know what, just because it's seems foreign to me doesn't necessarily mean that it's that it's bad or negative or it's going to cost the company any harm. Stephanie, the way she had her, she's wrestled a couple I think two matches in WWE, and then I've just been blown away. I've just been blown away. I think she's great. Same with Julia. I feel like they belonged, in a high promotion set. I'm not going to say necessarily WWE because honestly, they can go absolutely anywhere and shine, and it'd be pretty badass. But she's gonna learn. She's gonna be great, and I think she's ultimately going to teach others as well how to become better wrestlers. And all in all, we all can learn from each other. Different cultures is good. Learning different values and stuff like that. That's ultimately what being a human being is all about. You don't want to come in here and just absorb like, you have to do this, you have to do that. Kind of like an Americanization of it all. So you necessarily, the more diverse culture could, or a country could be, I feel like it's better. It's cool. That finisher she did during the match of Halloween Havoc was nuts. Yeah, no, I did love her finishing maneuver. I thought it was great. Something like, well, once again, just something new and innovative and something just different. And as a WWE fan, my whole entire life, I'm like, dude, I've never in my life kind of seen something like that. So I was like, dude, this is pretty badass. This is cool. I want to see more of that. I feel like Stephanie Vaquer is going to be a huge star, and I feel like we're lucky to see her on NXT every Tuesday night, and there's no shadow of a doubt that she's going to be a champion, one day. All right, rapidly going over some Impact. Obviously in Halloween, you had PCO come out wishing everybody a happy Halloween with like a maniacal with the maniacal, kind of laughter and stuff like that. You had Joe Hendry, his music hit, and obviously it was a bootleg version. It was Frankie Kazarian came out. And it was I gotta be honest, it was funny. It's you have that, that's the reason why Joe Hendry's popular. That's the reason why he makes a living because he's a musical artist, also a wrestling. He's a great wrestler, and also he's all part of the entertainment industry. And it was it was kind of crazy. Hendry, although he sensed a conspiracy between Kaz, JBL, and Nick Nemeth that screwed him out of the TNA World Championship. I think that, is a little bit too much. I feel like Nick Nemeth is ultimately pretty genuine. JBL right now, I feel like he has his own, he's kind of like nobody knows what he's going to do next. And, he's that manager that I ultimately feel, well, maybe, he's medically cleared to come back into the ring. Maybe we have a JBL return, although that's, kind of, maybe a couple of matches, but, I don't know. Maybe him as a as like a heel manager. That's money right there. That's a money in the bank. I definitely would think that'd be pretty badass. First Class defeated the Rascals, Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz. They tried to take out AJ Francis and Casey Navarro, but it just wasn't good enough. The Rascals have actually been kind of declining ever since you had Wesley defeat Zachary Wentz at WWE NXT. Shoot, was it? I think it was No Mercy. I think it was No Mercy they had their last. No, it wasn't last man standing match. I think it was just like a hardcore match or whatever. But it was, it was pretty cool. Eric Young, Steve Macklin, and Jonathan Grisham defeated Josh Alexander and the Good Hands. Ash by Elegance defeated Danny Luna of Spitfire. Oh God, I hope that's not a preview of them losing the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Championships because I love them. I love Spitfire. I feel like they're pretty awesome. Lee Yang Lee defeated Maggie Moore and obviously the return of Savannah Evans. We saw Eddie Edwards and Johnny Dango Curtis defeat Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry, but then you saw that mishap that Hendry accidentally hit Nemeth with the clothesline and he apologized, but Nemeth was heated and walked out to close the show. All in all, great episode of TNA Impact on a freaking Halloween, man. That's pretty badass. All right, let's go over some Ring of Honor results. We had JD Drake and Beef defeating Peter Avalon and Preston Vance via pinfall. Johnny TV gets back into the win column again, defeating Deonn Rusman. Gates of Agony defeated CSJ and Dave Dutra via pinfall. You had Reina Isis defeat Lady Frost. Lady Frost, getting back into that loss column kind of sucks. Pure Rules match, we had Matt Taven defeat Aaron Solo. We saw the Righteous defeat Solomon Tupu and Jay Marston. Tomorrow Ishii defeated Josh Woods. Ishii is set to take on. He was kind of you know going to attack the learning tree, but I feel like he's going to be the next one, the conglomeration to attack. I feel like that'd be badass. Top Flight and Action and Andretti with Leo Rush and Layla Gray defeated Dion Leon, J.A. Jossie, Drip Jordy via pinfall. Ring of Honor throwback. We saw Jay Lethal defeat Curryman. Billy Starks defeats Blair Onyx. Billy Starks, I feel like is going to be the next one to take on Athena. I don't know if she's going to be the one to dethrone her. That's a big ass maybe right there. So I'm not going to get too much into that. Shane Taylor Promotions, the Infantry, and defeated SAP and Helico and Serpentico. Via the boot camp on Angelico. That's crazy. Diamante defeats Aminata Belmont via pinfall. Dark Order defeated the Iron Savages. Commander defeats Arya Davari. And then the Ring of Honor Women's Champion Halloween Ring of Horror match, Athena with Lexi there defeats Abadon. And Abadon was not an easy win. So, once again, Athena proving that she's absolutely the best of the best. Obviously, one of my favorite Ring of Honor. She was, Ember Moon on NXT, and I loved her on WWE. But her on Ring of Honor, I feel like she's, totally kicking ass. I feel like it's pretty awesome. All right, guys. So hey, do not go anywhere. We're gonna jump on into our third segment, some AEW Dynamite review when we come back. So hey, do not go anywhere.